can be both liberating and useful. It deepens our appreciation of life and gives us more information for better decisions. In this lecture, we will learn about the roots and foundation of social psychology. But first, let us review what social psychology is. Social psychology is the scientific study of the causes and consequences of people's thoughts, feelings, and actions regarding themselves and other people. It is a set of concepts and discoveries that can fundamentally expand and enrich our understanding of yourself, those in your social sphere, and events in the world around you. Social psychology is based on 4 core assumptions. First, behavior is determined by the combined influence of specific aspects of the person and the situation. Second, virtually all human thoughts, feelings, and actions involve other people and are social in nature. Third, to understand behavior, we must learn how people think about themselves and their social world. And 4, the scientific method offers the best route to accurately understand behavior. Now, let's dive into how social interactions shape our behaviors. At the very heart of social psychology is the phenomenon of social influence. We are all influenced by other people. When we think of social influence, the kinds of examples that readily come to mind are direct attempts at persuasion, whereby one person deliberately tries to change another person's behavior. These direct attempts at social influence form a major part of social psychology. Social influence is the effect that words, actions, or mere presence of other people have on our thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and behaviors. Social influence extends beyond behavior. It includes our thoughts and feelings as well as our overt actions. Thus, in a sense, we carry our mothers, fathers, friends, and teachers around with us as we attempt to make decisions that would make them proud of us. So yes, social influence extends beyond our behaviors. It includes our thoughts, feelings, as well as our overt acts. Social psychologists are interested in studying how and why our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are shaped by the entire social environment. In a few, I will discuss the differences between social psychology and sociology. So, taking all these factors into account, we can define social psychology as the scientific study of the way people's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are influenced by the real or imagined presence of other people. It is very important that you understand the difference between social psychology, sociology, and personality psychology. A lot of students confuse these terms. Now, social psychology is a branch of psychology rooted in the individual. So it's the study of individuals with an emphasis on internal psychological processes. For the social psychologists, the level of analysis is the individual in the context of a social situation. Social psychology's focus on social behavior is shared by several other disciplines in the social sciences, including sociology, economics, and political science. Each of these examine the influence of social factors on human behavior. Other social sciences are more concerned with broad social, economic, political, and historical factors that influence events in a given society. Sociology, for example, is concerned with such topics as social class, social structure, and social institutions. Of course, because society is made up of collections of people, some overlap is bound to exist between the domains of sociology and those of social psychology. The major difference is that sociology, rather than focusing on the psychology of the individual, looks towards society at large. So, while sociologists are also concerned and interested in aggression, sociologists are more likely to be concerned with why a particular society or group within a society produces different levels of aggression in its members. Okay, now the difference between social psychology and other social sciences in level of analysis reflects another difference between the disciplines. So, the goal of social psychology is to identify universal properties of human nature that make everyone susceptible to social influence, regardless of social class or culture. The laws governing the relationship between frustration and aggression, for example, are hypothesized to be true of most people in most places, not just members of one social class, age, or race. So again, sociology provides general laws and theories about society, not the individual. Social psychology studies the psychological processes people have in common with one another that make them susceptible to social influence. And personality psychology studies the characteristics that make individuals unique and different from one another. Now let's recap. In summary, social psychology is the scientific study of the way in which people's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are influenced by the real or imagined presence of other people. Social psychologists are interested in understanding how and why the social environment shapes the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of the individual. To understand social influence, it is more important to understand how people perceive and interpret the world around them. It is to understand that world objectively. Social psychologists approach the understanding of social influence differently than philosophers or journalists or even the layperson. Social psychologists develop explanations of social influence through experiments in which the variables being studied are carefully controlled. Now, when trying to explain social behavior, how an individual acts within a social context in relation to others, personality psychologists explain the behavior in terms of the person's individual character traits. Although social psychologists would agree that personalities do vary, they explain social behavior in terms of the power of the social situation, as it is compared to the individual, of course. A fundamental way in which two disciplines, which is social psychology and sociology, differ is in its level of analysis. Social psychology is rooted in the study of the individual's internal psychological processes. The level of analysis for social psychology is the individual in the context of a social situation. In contrast, sociologists focus their analysis on groupings of people organized in social categories such as family, race, religion, and economic class. While sociologists aim to study larger social processes like historical and political changes, or how larger social structures like race, class, gender, sexual orientation shape an individual life chances, the orientation of the social psychologists is on the internal processes that take place within individuals themselves. Social psychologists seek to identify universal properties of human nature that make everyone susceptible to social influence, regardless of social class or culture. In my next lecture, we will focus entirely on the self. What is self-concept versus self-esteem? What does culture have to do with how we perceive ourselves? We will also talk about self-efficacy and the self-serving bias.